Good afternoon, Professor, class. I would like to thank you for being allowed to speak to you today. Now, today's topic is a very sensitive topic. In the wake of the election and upcoming events, from the LGBTQ community to the #MeToo movement, everybody is screaming equality. Now, today I want to speak to you about equality from a different perspective. Do men have rights as it pertains to women's choice? If so, what rights? Today I'm going to discuss the current laws that are in place. I'm also going to discuss men's rights from childhood or from infancy all the way to the time that the child becomes of legal age. Wade versus Roe. Wade versus Roe was a law that was passed by the federal government that prohibits the government from getting involved into abortion. Now, it's broken down by trimester. The first trimester being the government's not allowed to get involved at all. The second trimester, the government can implement healthcare regulations. And in the third trimester, they can completely prohibit abortion with the exception of if it affects the mother's life. And in that case, also the mother gets to determine whose life. So biologically, the baby is genetically half the father's. The baby is also genetically half the mother's. So why doesn't the father get half the say? That insult to injury, in 1999, the Safe Haven Act was implemented. Now, the Safe Haven Act decriminalizes unharmed infants from being dropped with designated private persons or any government agency up to 45 days after the child is born. So what that means is the mother can, up till 45 days after she has a child, she can drop the child with any government agency, no questions asked, no repercussions, no criminal proceedings, no nothing. She can abandon the child completely. Now, according to encyclopedia.com, there's 7,000 abandonments each year due to the Safe Haven Act. The key contributing factors to that are poverty and homelessness. And I'll touch on poverty and homelessness in a little while. Now, however, courts will not allow a father to abandon his child financially. In order for that to happen, the child has to have somebody in his place to adopt. In the state of Tennessee, actually, the child has a constitutional right to both children, which completely contradicts the Safe Haven Act. The courts only establish also financial responsibility. They do not include parenting plans. Now, these parenting plans are very important because child support is calculated upon the amount of time you spend with the child. It also gives the father an established right to see the child. Now, this is the only right under the Constitution that you actually have to pay for. You actually have to go hire an attorney to be able to establish a right that is constitutionally given to you by the state of Tennessee. This is heinous. To take it a step further, in 1993, Hersman versus Sire. Hersman was a 17-year-old female who was babysitting a 12-year-old boy. The 12-year-old boy engages in sexual acts with a 17-year-old female and she becomes pregnant. Later, the 17-year-old female, Miss Hersman, was charged with rape. Of course, the child was 12. Later on, she sued the child. At the age of 14, he was forced to pay child support. So even in the cases of rape, is a man forced to be financially responsible? Forget the fact that he was under the age of 18 and not able to make decisions for himself. What about the holy bondage of marriage? Webster's Dictionary defines marriage as a united as spouses in a consensual and contractual relationship recognized by law. Now, the key word being consensual here. A one-person decision is not consensual, and it completely undermines the idea of marriage. Now, let's take it a little bit further. What if your 12-year-old daughter, say like Sire, the 12-year-old boy, she gets pregnant? What happens then? Well, she's allowed to have an abortion. There's only 5 states that prohibit parents to be notified after she has the abortion. There's only 3 states that allow for a parent to for both parents to be notified. This is also heinous. So in closing today, women are allowed to abort babies up until their 3rd trimester. Then they're allowed to drop the child off until 45 days after. The father does not get a say on whether he wants to have a child. The father doesn't get a say if he wants to be financially responsible. To establish rights for the child, the father must pay money to establish his rights for his constitutional right. Even in the cases of split custody, the father could still end up paying child support. It depends on income. And as I stated before, one of the contributing factors of abandonment are poverty and homelessness. Inflated child support creates both, in which a vicious circle, men and women become homeless. According to homeless.org, 33% of homeless men, the homeless of the male population, is contributing to overly inflated child support orders. So now the financial responsibility is causing homelessness in itself. This is a vicious cycle. So to answer your question, do men have rights? The answer is hell no. We have no rights. And in fact, this is the definition of discrimination. And I thank you for your time.